BQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Dave Wolo, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
Look up on the wall. There on the wall.
Good, sloppy Friday morning. Oh, wet outside. Going to be wet for most of the day. So take it slow, take it easy. Just keep it right here. Week 2 of the National Football League begins with a double loss for the Miami Dolphins. I thought there was some irony into it all. Third quarter, Tua trying to run for a first down, gets the first down, and on a clean tackle, ironically, by Damar Hamlin of the Buffalo Bills. Basically, it's a shoulder tackle. But Tua runs right into his shoulder with his helmet. Can't blame Damar Hamlin for this. This is unfortunately on Tua. I'm watching the replay of it right now. He just buries his head because he wanted to get that first down, and you can watch his head buckle back. This is his third concussion in 2 years in the NFL. If you go back to Alabama, it is his fourth concussion in 5 years. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tua just signed a new deal, right? He just signed a new 4-year, $220 million deal. If I'm correct on it, because then Dak got the bigger one. He got $240, but he got $220, 4-year deal. Am I right?
$212, but just
$212. Okay.
Yeah.
And that lasted for a game and 3 quarters. I don't know what's going to happen. There's already a bunch of people saying that you can't keep playing if you're Tua, because you are really going to put on the line your chance for a good, productive, happy life afterwards. Because every time you get a concussion, the odds of you getting another one for even less impact grow. And so I've heard 2 different guys on these ESPN panels say he needs to step down. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know how much of that 212 is guaranteed. But if I'm him, I'm sure it's going to be enough to live for him and the next couple of generations happily ever after. And look, I feel bad for him and I feel bad for Miami, but the truth is the truth. You can't keep hurting yourself like that. That's really tough. And you know, I think part of that is why numbers of high school football players are down in America. It's a dangerous sport. There's just no way around it. And last night, I don't know what Miami and Tua will do, but I think there's some real soul searching that's about to happen. That is for certain. Okay, I'm 7-3 after 2 weeks. Zach, you are 4-6 in our pick'em. We're doing 4 college games this week, and then we'll do 1 with your Cowboys. I had you in mind when I was picking these games out. Are you ready?
I'm ready. You don't have to cater to me, Dave.
Well, sure I do. Because you're picking with me here. All right, I'm going to take the Alabama-Wisconsin game. This is in Camp Randall. It is in Madison, Wisconsin. The line is 16. I think that's a fair line. I think this is literally a tough one. But I think about what Texas did to Michigan last week. The SEC looks so strong. I'm really going league here. I know Alabama had some troubles with South Florida. I think South Florida is actually a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
I know they got that quarterback that Byron Brown. I didn't think he'd be in Tampa this year. I thought some team would NIL him away.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a lot of schools that thought Hennigan would be gone too. So I know Memphis matched what Hennigan needed. I don't know if South Florida did. Maybe there wasn't as much interest in Brown. I think he's terrific, but I think Alabama and Milroe will cover. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to go with Alabama.
And I think I'm the opposite. I
Okay.
think Bama is going to win, but I think Wisconsin's going to make this close.
Okay. Well, on the road, just listening to Brandon Lang talk a little bit about it. He goes double-digit home dogs. You take them. I'm going against that. It's not double digits, but LSU is a 6.5-point favorite at South Carolina. I don't know. South Carolina struggled in their first game, and then they beat Kentucky handily in the second game. But I think LSU is a pretty good football team, and it's only 6.5, 1 touchdown. When I see that kind of thing, I think, who's going to really win the game? I know it could be a field goal. I think LSU will win, and I think they'll win by 10. So 6.5 to me is not so bad. I am going LSU.
I'm going with LSU as well.
Okay. Ole Miss at Wake Forest. Here we go. 21.5-point favorite. The points that Ole Miss has put up, but against inferior talent, let's be honest. Now they're taking on Wake Forest. ACC has struggled this year, it seems. I think until I see them not put up a lot of points, that I got to go with them. I think I'm going to take Ole Miss to cover. I rarely do that.
Yeah, give me Ole Miss. With a high-powered team with a lot of skilled players.
Yeah. Georgia's at Kentucky. Kentucky, which lost to South Carolina last week, which surprised me. I don't think there's any chance they're going to win this game. But then again, there's 22 points here, and I think Stoops is a good enough coach that he'll keep it inside 3 touchdowns. Again, Georgia wins easily, but not by 22.
Georgia till the wheels fall off, man.
Okay, so you're going Georgia. We differ on that one, and we differ on Wisconsin. The final one, your Cowboys against the Saints, who beat up the Carolina Panthers last week. Beat up poor North Carolina. Charlotte. Dak got his money, and then he went out and played really well. I think they're going to play really well again. They're at home, and I think 6 points is enough. I think the Cowboys will win the game by a touchdown, so that would be enough.
Yeah, Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the number is at 6, though.
You thought it would be higher?
I thought it would be higher.
Now, some people are scared away by the way the Saints played last week. Maybe Carolina's so bad. I don't know. We'll see. There it is. We differ on 2. We differ on Alabama, Wisconsin. You've got the Badgers, and we differ on Georgia and Kentucky. I took the Wildcats in that one for the cover. We all know Georgia's going to win the game. We're going to talk high school sports. There is some breaking news here. KJ Lawson is going to be the new coach of the Hamilton Wildcats. We'll get Glenn Rogers' thoughts on that. I'll say this. KJ was a solid player. He played at Memphis. He played at Kansas. He ended up playing at Tulane. And the only thing I'm going to say is, after watching him up close, I hope he has changed. I hope he is a better coach than he was a teammate while he was at the University of Memphis. All right. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure studio. Can't wait to talk some high school football with Glenn Rogers Jr. And I remind you, because I don't know how much longer it's going to last, I want you to cash in on the world's largest, biggest spa sale ever. It's going on at I-40 and Wooden Road. Save thousands on the in-stock hot tubs, including spas that started under $28.90. They are really stock full of cold plunges. They start at under $4,000, and the Cadillacs, the big swim spa, starting at $17,499, do have special financing available. If you want to go big, you can do it with this big spa sale at Family Leisure. Let's bring in our coach, Glenn Rogers Jr., and we will talk some high school sports. First, let's start with the news I just heard. KJ Lawson going to be the basketball coach at Hamilton High School. Your first impression?
Well, he's an alum at Hamilton and had a successful career as a former Hamilton Wildcat as a player. So kudos to him, and good morning, Dave, to you and all our listeners. This is the Easy B Friday, big dog. Easy B Friday.
All right, we got week 3. If you consider the ground week 0 and stuff, what's your impression early on in this high school football season?
I think, Dave, a lot of competitiveness going around. Joe Riccone at Collierville is really just off to a good start. It's good to see Collierville off to a good start. You know, we knew Barter was pretty good with their running game. We knew Houston was going to be competitive coming off a state championship year in Germantown as well. And, probably what's, not necessarily a shocker. Whitehaven and Ridgeway are still a little bit down. That's kind of a shocker because it's been a while. 5 years now, 4 years since COVID. So those two programs are still down, but a lot of programs. White Station's on the rise with Coach Conley, so a lot of programs are making an upward trend. So that's a good sign. Football is coming back to like we used to say, a lot of competitive teams.
Well, the Haven's not so bad, and we're going to talk about their game, but they're 2-1. It's they seem to be finding their footing. Ridgeway, I'm just absolutely amazed at how far that program has fallen. And if you look at the lopsided scores so far, I was a little surprised that Collierville dispatched to Bartlett. I didn't see Jaron Johnson. I didn't see any stats on the guy that blew away MUS. Is there a problem? Did he get hurt?
Yeah, I don't know if he's hurt or got hurt during the week, and they left him. Didn't dress him out for that game. But I'm like you, Dave. I didn't see him in the stat sheet, so maybe he's got an injury. They want to keep him out of the game and make sure he stays healthy for the remainder of the season. But it's going to be interesting to see when Whitehaven gets into the meat of the schedule. Really, how far they've came along these since these last few years they didn't make the playoffs.
All right, we've got some interesting games this week, as always. According to the commercial appeal, the game of the week is Munford 2-1 at Southwind. Munford likes to run. Southwind can pass the football quite well with Kelvin Perkins, their quarterback. Who wins this game and why?
Dave, I'll tell you what, Kelvin Perkins, the junior, is a dual threat guy. He can do it all. And we all know, Dave, when you got a quarterback behind the center that he's the engine that makes the train go. And I'll tell you, Coach Griffin over at Southwind and my cousin Earl Lester's done an amazing job with that team. Got one of our former guys, T.J. Mays, who's playing outside linebacker and tailback. I think Southwind wins the game tonight. I think Perkins is too much. He's a do-it-all quarterback. He's a leader. And, when you got a kid like that, it's a special talent that comes along every so often. I'm sure Coach Griffin's going to take advantage of that. They went a long way in the playoffs last year. They're looking to make a big push this year to get on up their road and vie for a championship.
A great game is Germantown and Riverdale. They're at Riverdale. Both teams are 2-1. Both teams lost to really good teams last week. That Germantown-Houston rivalry, that is something special.
It is. That Dave, that's interesting you say that because I'm like you. I'm really looking at that Germantown-Houston rivalry. That's one of the rivalries now that's coming up. Coach Thomas and Coach Dean Robinson, and great game last week with Houston and Germantown. Went down to the wire and Houston pulled it off. But I think Dean Robinson proved something. He went down to DeSoto County 2 weeks ago and beat a good South Panola team. I think his team is poised and ready to go up to Riverdale, and they've already played. It's in a hostile environment. They played probably Houston, probably one of the toughest teams in the state you're going to play. I think Gene Robinson's team is poised to go up to Riverdale and pull up a win tonight on the road in a hostile environment.
Speaking of Houston, they're 3-0 now, and they take on a Cordova team that lost last week to White Station. So this one looks like it could be a rout. Cordova 1-1, and of course 3-0 perfect for the defending 6A champs.
And, we can't say enough about Houston, Coach Thomas and his staff. Got the kids believing. Ernie Bennett's son is over there coaching the D-line. They just right now, Houston is one of these programs that's on the rise, Dave. A lot of buildings going up, new facilities going up. And, Coach Thomas really got it rocking and rolling. The enrollment's high. And this program is going to be here to stay for a long time. And I think Coach Thomas knows that and his staff. I think they win tonight. And, I don't see them running into any hiccups, Dave, until they get into the playoffs. And then it'll be more challenging. But I'm really poised to see Houston make a deep run and defend the state title. And, last week, Dave, he pulled his starting quarterback out and put his brother, the freshman, in to win that Germantown game. So Coach Thomas is doing an excellent job. When things ain't going right, he's not afraid to pull a starter out and put another guy in. But that tells you the depth that they got on that team.
So we talked about both these schools. White Station coming off that win against Cordova, that bad first game against Christian Brothers. Now they've won 2 in a row since then, but they are taking on the Haven, who seems, as I said earlier, to be getting their footing since the pandemic. They're both 2-1. Who wins?
Coach Conley, coming off that drubbing, that molly-whopping Christian Brothers gave him. And then Coach Salisbury, he, like you said, Whitehaven's one of the storied programs in this area. A lot of tradition. This is going to be a very, very interesting game, Dave, tonight, because both teams are trying to make a statement. I'm going to give a nod. I think Coach Salisbury will get it done tonight. But it's going to be a hard-fought, tough, physical ball game because both teams are looking to establish some physicality, especially up front on that line of scrimmage, Dave.
Yeah, both teams like to run, but Whitehaven's a whole lot bigger, it seems to me. All right, 2 unbeatens. ECS 2-0. Lausanne hasn't played in 2 weeks for various reasons. They are 1-0. This could be the best game in Division II AA in this area of the year. Who's going to win?
Well, Blake Butler's got that program headed in the right direction at ECS. Keith Butler, his dad, long time.
Right.
Former Tiger great and NFL great. Steelers D coordinator.
Don't forget,
Lausanne,
Blake was a Tiger, too, played offensive line.
Oh, yeah, we know. Yeah, Blake, former Tiger O-lineman. Follow his dad's footsteps like I did. And so, Lausanne been 2 weeks. One game got canceled against Bartlett, and then I think maybe last week they had a bye week. But I'll tell you one thing, Dave. Coach LeCastro and his staff, Chris Jordan, his D coordinator, those guys do an excellent job. They got a lot of talent at Lausanne. I think Lausanne gets the win tonight. But Blake Butler's got ECS going in the right direction. And hats off to him and his staff for getting that program back on track.
Arlington and Bartlett. Arlington's now 1-2, one of the bigger and newer schools in the area. And then Bartlett, we mentioned last week, surprisingly lost to Collierville, although Collierville seems to be a really, really good football team. Bartlett only 1-1. We don't know about Jaron Johnson. How do you break this one down?
Well, I think, Bartlett learned a lot of things last week at Collierville on the road, a hostile environment. They got whooped. They got beat. I think they get back on the winning track tonight. It's a shame, Arlington. That school is that area out there is huge. There's only one school out there. Well, now Lakeland's out there, but still, that's a lot of. The facilities are great. They got a great environment out there. And all. I just didn't understand why they can't get the ball rolling out there. And I think they'll get the ball rolling tonight. I think Bartlett gets back on the winning track. Hopefully, Jaron Johnson plays tonight, and I think Bartlett get back on the winning track. I just don't understand why Arlington ain't rocking and rolling with all the things they have out there going for them.
All right, and final thing. We mentioned Lausanne and Kevin LeCastro, who was pretty vocal in one of the papers talking about Brock Glenn, his former quarterback, who is the backup quarterback to DJU at Florida State, a team that Memphis will face tomorrow. Do you think Brock Glenn, because some of the fans were going, we want Brock, do you think we will see Brock? Kevin LeCastro thinks he should get a chance.
I think Brock Glenn, Dave, to me, should have been the starter coming into the season at Florida State. You got a guy like DJ Ungerville, who's, he's well-traveled. He was started off at Clemson, then went to Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State. And everybody in his quarterback class, C.J. Stroud and the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, those were the guys in his quarterback class. All those are five-star guys coming out of high school. Those two guys in the NFL now, and he's not. And there's a reason why he's not, Dave. He doesn't make good decisions. He holds onto the football all day long. He's just very indecisive as a quarterback with his decision-making. And he just looks like he hasn't developed full as a quarterback. Coming out of high school, he was a five-star, highly rated guy, a can't-miss NFL prospect. But you look at those other two kids in his class, they're off and running in the NFL, especially C.J. Stroud with the Houston Texans. He's doing an amazing job. Look at the year. Bryce Young just needs some more help around him. But, he hasn't, DJ Ungolay hasn't really developed. He still makes a lot of poor decisions. And Brock Glenn should. He finished up last year, taking over for the injury situation, did an amazing job. I imagine he had a great spring practice. And, Mike Norvell is known as a quarterback whisperer guy. And hopefully Brock Glenn will get his shot tomorrow with the Tigers, but hopefully he doesn't have any good luck. We want the Tigers to go in there and pull up another upset.
Well,
bring that upset back home to Memphis.
Brock Glenn did win the ACC championship game, but he also
exactly.
And then there were a lot of opt-outs, but he also lost the bowl game in the Orange Bowl to Georgia 63-3, and Mike Norvell paid a lot of money to bring DJU from Oregon State. Once that thing happened, you kind of knew Brock Glenn was going to take a back seat, but maybe he does deserve a shot after an 0-2 start. Last thing, real quick, Tigers have a chance tomorrow?
Absolutely, Dave. I think our defense is, we're in a great position. This is a game, we know Florida State's coming off 2 losses, but we're in a great position to make a step forward, in our conference and make a statement. Florida is a good football team, Dave. We know Coach Norvell and that offense, so hopefully we can get keep DJ confused and the offense can move the ball and we can come back tomorrow and celebrate on Saturday night with the Tigers having a big win down in Tallahassee. We need it. We need it for our program.
That is our coach. That is Glenn Rogers Jr. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk next Friday.
Buddy, go Tigers, go, baby.
There you go. Glenn, brought to you by the Eflin Insurance team. They are just like, Glenn with high school football. You gotta be together. You gotta communicate. You gotta talk to your clients. You gotta find out about them. That's what the Eflin Insurance team does. They're going to find out about your family, your needs, what's important, what's your budget, and then they find the insurance that will absolutely protect your home, your car, your future with life insurance. That's the philosophy they have for small to mid-sized businesses, too. When it comes to commercial insurance, they're going to find out about you, your product, your employees, forecast you out a couple of years, see what your budget is, and then they find your protection for your business. It's the Eflin Insurance team. They collaborate to make sure that you're taken care of. We must take care of some business here. When we come back to Chicago, we go. Our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman, on the NBA. He's next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work denim by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier's the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-627-7754. 800-627-7754. 800-627-7754.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
We're here with David Cooper, Vice President of Genesis Diamonds. David, we're familiar with iconic brands. Are there designers for engagement rings?
Absolutely. Like every other industry, industry, there are 10 renowned bridal designers who have been leading the industry for years. They're trusted, respected, and exclusive. Every jewelry store wishes to help.
So what makes these designer engagement rings so desirable?
These designers drive a surge of customers to the store, making it the place to be. They attract shoppers who value quality, sophistication, and the ability to express their individuality with their engagement.
Do customers find these engagement rings in other stores?
Absolutely. Other stores would love to have them, but they didn't bring the cut. They have to settle for what they can get, not what they wish to have.
So Genesis is cornering the market.
Certainly, from world-class exclusive selection from $1,900 complete rings to $250,000 celebrity rings. These bridal designers of the world create these one-of-a-kind rings specifically to showcase
Genesis Diamonds, operating markets extended.
Back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
Welcome in. We go to Chicago in a minute to talk NBA and more with our friend Andy Schiffman, our agent from Priority Sports. It's all brought to you by Southern Security. Whether you're a small business owner, maybe single mom, or you're buying your first home, Southern Security is they're here just to be your trusted financial partner. For over 75 years now, Southern Security has been serving the Mid-South community with unbeatable rates, the best of service, and always the newest technology. They've been voted best credit union in the Mid-South for 6 consecutive years. To find out how you can join the Southern Security family, you can visit southernsecurity.org, or my favorite, you can actually call and talk to a human being. Call, talk to a member by just dialing 452-7900. Southern Security, proud supporter of Tiger Athletics and 901 Women. Southern Security, your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. To Chicago we go. Our agent Andy Schiffman joins us now. Interesting discussion this week from the commissioner of the NBA. That would be Adam Silver, who's talking a little bit about expansion. Do you expect that will happen? When do you think it'll happen? And will it be, as everybody speculates, and I think it was even mentioned by the commissioner, Seattle and Vegas? What do you think? Good morning.
Morning, Dave. Yeah, we've talked about, I think those are the two likely destinations if the NBA does expand. It's hard to say when. I think over the next several years with this new TV rights deal that just got approved, the NBA's revenue is just going to explode. And I think with that, hopefully comes increased popularity. I mean, that's only exponentially continued, I feel like, every single season. So I could see the NBA adding 2 more teams there in the next 3 to 5 years. Obviously, it's a process. Maybe something is announced next summer, and then it takes several years to have the funding, stadiums updated, et cetera. But I do think it is likely.
In the new TV deal, I really have not seen, was there any language clauses that were put in that would up the ante incrementally if there were 2 new teams in the league?
Well, I think theoretically, yes, but practically I haven't really dove into the specific language in the agreement. I couldn't tell you, but again, to my point, I think naturally and theoretically, I think that would make sense. The NBA would have more money. I think the owners would be all for it, except for James Dolan, who is pretty vocal in his dissent about revenue sharing and the NBA reducing the number of nationally televised Knicks games, which thereby reduces his revenue for the Knicks for the upcoming season.
From the Yes Network, right. So that's all based on him. Plus which, because he's the number one market, he has the best local package of all. He doesn't want to share it.
He does, but the other side of this coin, right, is he says all these things, but the Knicks have not really been a luxury tax-paying team for several years. And so because of that, the Knicks and James Dolan, they receive a luxury tax payout from those teams that are in the tax. The way the NBA works, if you are in the luxury tax, you pay a penalty, and that gets distributed to the non-tax teams. And the Knicks have consistently been a non-tax team. The salary cap is only continuing to increase. The luxury tax thresholds, called the aprons, they're only continuing to increase. So it gives the Knicks a little more of a buffer to spend money and maybe not be a luxury tax-paying team, which, again, only puts more money in James Dolan's pocket. So I think he's trying to kind of have his cake and eat it too. I understand where he's coming from, but I think the success of the league, he's complaining that they're following the NFL's model, and the NFL is arguably the most successful league when it comes to parity, one of the most successful leagues out there. And so I applaud the NBA for what they're doing. I don't really see them kowtowing to James Dolan anytime soon. But the end result, to your point, I do think in the coming years, because of this explosion in revenue and TV popularity with this new deal, I do think we'll see a couple new teams.
I know there is a consensus feeling they owe Seattle one. Here's a franchise that won an NBA title, and they left to go to Oak City, and so they figure they owe them one. The other is, I don't think Mexico City. I know that's mentioned. It would be another foreign team like Toronto is, but I do think Vegas is the one considered, and it's always been sort of put on the list that we can't because of gambling. Well, that seems to be out the window now.
Yep. I think, again, I think it's highly likely. You've seen what professional sports has done in Vegas over the years, adding the WNBA team, hockey team, football team, etc. And the NBA loves to have events in Vegas. Obviously, NBA Summer League is there every summer. In the past, they've started hosting the G League Showcase in December there, whereas before it was in different parts. It was in Orlando one year, just bouncing around all over the U.S. in different cities. And Vegas doesn't even have a G League team, but they now have it there. And then you see USA Basketball. They are out there training prior to the Olympics. So I think naturally it makes sense to have an NBA franchise there. And it's pretty reasonable travel around the 30 other NBA teams right now. I think that it will be a really, really popular franchise with all the other, I guess, upcoming and sustainable professional sports teams already there.
Since we're on the subject of Vegas and the gambling aspect of it all, I know earlier this year Adam Silver wrote an op-ed in the New York Times pertaining to gambling and to regulation and oversight and things of that nature. I don't believe in the league we've had any issues in the NBA. I think there has been some suspensions in other leagues pertaining to gambling, even though, gambling is, well, actually, there might have been one in the NBA now that I think about it, where there's an official team gambling site. DraftKings comes to mind as one that does a lot of it. Do we think this is all under control now? What is your sense? What do you tell your players? I know Pete Pranica has said, because he's a regular guest on Thursdays, that as an NBA announcer, he cannot gamble on anything at any time pertaining to league rules.
Absolutely. I do think it's relatively under control. I think the players in the league understand that they need to stay away from that. They're not tempted by that. For the most part, and they understand the repercussions. And obviously, we've talked about it. I hate to bring up one of my own players that was obviously hit by this, and Jonte Porter earlier this year at the Raptors caught himself in hot water, and just a lot of negative circumstances in his surrounding environment that I don't want to get into right now. But again, remove that example from what we're talking about. I do believe it's under control, and as you can see, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, all these other international sports, betting in professional sports is only continuing to grow. And I think it gives fans an incentive to pay attention to every play, every game. It makes everything more interesting. Obviously, you have to be careful because there are addicts and compulsive gamblers out there that can't control themselves. But I think the players stay away from that. I think the one negative aspect in terms of the NBA, right, you've seen this come up, and I've had comments made by fans to some of my players where a player's walking off the court at halftime or after a game, and you get irrational and nonsensical comments made and spewed at players because they missed the shot or they need 2 more points or they should have gotten this line or that line in order for the fan to win money. And I think that's absurd, and I know players get a lot of heat on social media where fans will comment on Twitter and send direct messages on Instagram, what have you, bashing players because of that. It's funny, like if I'm watching a routine Wednesday night NBA game during the season, let's say between the Timberwolves and the Sacramento Kings, and I I represent a player on the Sacramento Kings, and I go on Twitter and type his name in, the majority of comments are from fans betting on the games, hoping or bashing or applauding a player for achieving a certain stat line so they can win, or getting upset because they didn't do something that would have won that fan money. It's less and less media positively commenting on the game they're having or posting highlights. You get some of that, but it's just getting drowned out by all the fan rhetoric about betting. But again, for the most part, the players are smart enough to understand, let's not have this affect us. I'm out here to do my job, and I'm not going to get sucked into what the fans are saying.
The best example I've seen of this was the Auburn quarterback who threw 4 interceptions in their loss to Cal last Saturday, said he had several gamblers requesting on his Venmo for money back. And he said they certainly didn't want to give me any money when they won, so they're not going to get any money when they lost. Do you guys have any kind of teaching lessons or seminars or anything pertaining to how you have to handle all this?
Well, the MVPA does a good job every summer when they come together for their annual meetings, talking to all the current NBA players, primarily the team representatives. And obviously they send out memos during the year. I think it's really hit hard when you are a rookie coming into the NBA early on, because as a veteran, you hear it every year, you understand it. And again, we educate our own players on the rules and the negatives and the repercussions, obviously, about betting on sports. For the most part, as I said, these guys have an understanding of what they can and can't do. But the NBA, through the Players Association, does a really good job of educating their young players on the rules, the regulations, what they can and can't do. And unfortunately, now we have a real-life example that they're going to use moving forward.
Lakers did a really nice thing. They're going to have the number 44 for Jerry West on their jerseys this year. I was thinking to myself, of course, the former Grizzlies general manager, we all got to know for a short period of time here. I don't know if I've ever seen that before in the NBA. Have they ever memorialized, like the Bears have GSH, George S. Hallis, forever on their arms, on their uniforms, but I don't know that I've ever seen a number of a former and now deceased player on the jersey of a team.
I don't know if I've ever seen it either. I know obviously you see like the black armbands or the black marks on the shoulder without any sort of marking or number or initials, etc., on them in the NBA. I think I don't know if they did anything for Kobe that following season on the jerseys. I think maybe something, I want to say the Celtics did something for Bill Russell. So I think we've seen things similar. It'd be an interesting concept. Do you do that? You know, is it just on the Lakers jerseys or is it on every NBA jersey?
I think it's just the Lakers.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one if the Grizzlies want to do something, because obviously look at what Jerry West has contributed to the growth of the Grizzlies years ago. I think, look, he's the logo of the league, so I think you can make an argument to do something memorializing him on every NBA jersey.
All right, last thing. I think the Grizzlies, and I can't remember if it's Milwaukee or San Antonio, are the lowest valued teams in the NBA at over $2 billion, which is incredible. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see this with an NBA basketball team, but it is. It's the case. And the Boston Celtics are up for sale. So I would have to think that Boston and L.A. would be the most valued. You could throw in New York because it's the number one market in the country.
Right.
I don't know how the valuation on those goes, but those would be the top three. What do you think the Boston Celtics are going to sell for? What kind of price?
Oh, man. Probably asking the wrong guy on that. I mean, I just saw an article yesterday, actually, we were talking about expansion, that a Vegas franchise could be the most expensive and valued at $7 billion at the time, whenever its inception is, and someone wants to buy a franchise and start it there. And I think you could see the Celtics around that number, given just the history of winning and the legacy that they mean to the league and to the NBA. So I think it's all relative, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's over $4 or $5 billion. when you talk about the sales price for the Celtics. What's crazy is if you go back, and it's not that long ago, and you look at what some of these owners paid for their franchises just 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Even like the Clippers, right? And all of a sudden, very quickly, time is all relative, and what they're valued at today, that's the direction the league is going.
Well,
Everything continues
look
to
at Memphis.
increase.
Robert Pera bought the Grizzlies for $350 or $370 million, somewhere in there. It was that price, and the local guys could have gotten it for cheaper.
Yeah.
And now it's worth over $2 billion. So it's tripled since Robert Pera bought it, and I guess that's double-digit years ago.
And that seems just like yesterday.
Yeah, it sure does. It really is crazy, which gets me back to my last question. I don't know if you know the answer to this one either, but let's just say it's $6 billion that the Celtics go for. We'll go in between your two numbers. Does that mean Seattle and Vegas coming in, whoever buys those teams for entry into the league would have to pay that price?
I don't think so. I think they would understand. I mean, the Celtics are the winningest franchise in NBA history, and an expansion team in Vegas and Seattle is not. And they're starting from scratch, and they'd have to have an expansion draft where they could pick from other teams' current players, and they're starting from the ground up. So I think, obviously, the selling price would be significantly higher than, let's say, what Pera paid for the Grizzlies years ago and some of these other examples. I think you do get into the billions, especially when you talk about Vegas, like I mentioned. But I don't think you can make a fair argument to say, well, because the Celtics sold for $6 million, $7 million, $8 million, that's what a new owner now has to pay to start a franchise in Vegas or Seattle. It's hard to say what that number would look like. But again, when it comes to revenue sharing and the potential concept of having to kind of build, if you're Vegas or Seattle, a franchise from the ground up, I do think you have to pay a premium for that, because then you can take advantage of everything that being an NBA owner has to offer in terms of the luxury tax payouts, the growth of the league. So I think there's an additional price you have to factor in there that maybe you didn't have to factor in 20 years ago if you were just starting a franchise.
He is our agent in Chicago from Priority Sports. He is Andy Schiffman. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk next Friday.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Have a good weekend.
You too. Andy brought to you in part by Miramichi. Oh, yeah, Miramichi. What a great place. Fall golf. There's nothing better than fall golf, and Miramichi's the perfect place. All those trees, especially on the back nine, it's like a walk through the woods with a stream and waterfalls. Guess what? All those colors are going to be coming out. How beautiful is that? And then you've got just these great conditions. Somebody told me they played Miramichi the other day. He said you cannot find a better set of greens and fairway than what we've got at Miramichi. And I say this about Miramichi all the time. You can't get better practice facilities than they have of any public golf course, really most country clubs. But when you consider the sand trap area, the chip shot area, a driving range, a huge putting range, you can really refine your game if you go to Miramichi. And it's not far. I'm talking 12 minutes north of downtown, 22 minutes from my driveway in East Memphis. It's the total golf experience, and it's fall. It's beautiful out at Miramichi. And this portion of the show brought to you by The Spirit Shop. Yes, the weekend's here. Time to stock up. Could be a local beer, could be a very valuable bourbon, could be an up-and-coming tequila. And you know who can tell you why they are what they are? It's Eddie Connor at the Spirit Shop, because their staff will educate you as you get the best price and the best service. You can't beat it. You can't beat the location. Right there, heart of East Memphis. It is 4848 Poplar. That's Poplar and St. Nick, the little log cabin right down from Clark Tower. May seem small from the outside. Go in. You'll find a lot of product and a lot of fun at the Spirit Shop. Back in a minute. Brian Takis ends our week, as always, right here on Wolo and Friends.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to real sports talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Uncorn flavor, cork it is
Hi, this is Jimmy Stovall with Corky's Barbecue. We're celebrating 40 years in Memphis since opening our doors in 1984, and we want to thank you, our loyal customers. Our new Barbecue Nachos Party Pack will be the hit of your party or tailgate. For only $40, Corky's makes it easy for you to feed 6 to 8 hungry barbecue fans our legendary barbecue nachos, loaded with our signature cheese dip, smoky barbecue, and all the toppings. Drive-through or takeout at any of our 4 Memphis area locations.
Jason's Deli. When you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises. Just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it. Because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets, vegan and gluten-free options available, convenience, and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com. So whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli, locations at Ridgeway in the Parkway Center, Poplar Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli is wholesome food and no surprises.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-627-7754. 800-627-7754. 800-627-7754.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at TriumphAutoSales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 36. Once again, is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo Show.
Welcome back in on this sloppy Friday. Take it slow out there. Brian Dacus joins us, as always, to end the week. It's funny, you got that Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic shirt on. Makes me think that was the first time we saw Ryan Silverfield take the reins of this football program, and it was no Mark Norvell.
Yeah,
Norvell left. Norvell's paying $1.3 million for his former buddy to come in and see what they can do. And I it's just me. Maybe I think there's a lot more pressure on Mike Norvell than there is on Ryan Silverfield.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, although it's funny, Memphis is the one ranked team in this game, not Florida State, which was preseason number 10.
Sure.
But 0-2, and, it wasn't long ago. I know he had a 13-0 year, which buys you a year or two, I would think. But it wasn't that long ago that they didn't think Norvell could do the job. Then he had this great year last year. And that was with a lot of guys he brought in with the portal. Well, this year's portal guys don't seem to want to play together.
No, you're absolutely right. First off, this jacket, our former producer Johnny Hill gifted this to me. It was one
really?
that the team managers got, and he had an extra one that fit me. So thank you to him for that. But no, you're right. It's been such a weird weird time at Florida State for Mike Norvell, because you're absolutely right, Dave. I mean, he gets to Florida State. We first had that, the issue with a couple of the players calling him out and weren't really happy with some things he had done coming in. That got resolved. He goes out there. Fans aren't really happy at first. Then he has this season last year. He starts winning. He starts bringing in guys. It feels like everything's good. And then preseason, they're number 10. Last year, they missed the college football playoff, and it feels like everybody's up in arms about it. And now an 0-2 start. So, yes, pressure completely on Florida State. It doesn't feel like any pressure on Memphis in this game because, I mean, you're going to have a team that's desperate. They do not want to fall to 0-3. And, I mean, we got to remember, they're already 0-2, but they're also 0-2 in conference play because their first two games were conference games, which is, you don't see that very often. So they're completely behind the 8 ball right now. And so, yes, I would say all pressure on Mike Norvell and his team.
It's amazing when you look at their girth, their size, their athleticism. How has this happened?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that one of the keys, in my estimation, would be if Memphis could get off to a good start.
Absolutely.
They're going to go, we're really not that good.
Yeah.
And you look at, they have averaged 59 yards a game on the ground, and their best guy, who was really a transfer that came in to be a kick returner running back, he's out for the year.
Yeah, and that's another thing. They've had a couple injuries, but you're right. I mean, that was kind of the story is all these guys they brought in from the transfer portal. I remember everybody talking before the season about this defensive line they have, and it could be the best in the country, and they just have not lived up to that, whether it's just guys not meshing or them not being able to grasp the system that Florida State wants to run as fast as the coaches would like. Something hasn't clicked, and I've been saying, just what you said, Dave, of you get a fast start. If Memphis can get out there and whether they start on defense and get a stop and go down and score, or they get the ball first and go down and score. I mentioned it. This is a desperate team that's already 0-2. If they go down early to Memphis, they're going to be looking at each other going, what is wrong with us? We really might not be that good, and that's really when disaster gets set in for Florida State.
Last week, at one point, they were going, we want Brock Glenn.
Yeah.
We want the backup quarterback who's from Memphis, Lausanne High School. Do you think we'll see him? Do you know?
Man.
Because I will say this in preparation. I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag when I talk, because I'm, the meetings with the coaches are fairly confidential on Thursday.
Absolutely.
Until the game starts. They didn't mention Brock Glenn.
Sure.
They're all over DJU.
And I think that's what you have to do. DJU has not been very good, if we're being honest, through these first two games.
58%.
Yeah.
But he's thrown for almost as many yards as Seth has.
That's incredible. But yeah, I think the fan base certainly is not happy, and that's after some really good play the last couple of years from Jordan Travis. You look at what Jordan Travis was, not only as a player, but as a leader for Florida State. And then you go to DJU, it's just very different in terms of who they are. And so I think, there's a lot of questions. I think the system that DJU was in last year at Oregon State fit him a lot better than what Mike Norvell wants to do, because he's not a guy that's going to really push the ball down the field. And so, now they have 2 weeks. They can really work on things. They can try to make him comfortable, maybe change some things, change some reads, or do something with him to make him a little comfortable in this offense. I think Mike Norvell, it would have to get very, very dire for him to turn to Brock Glenn because of what he's put in to getting DJU through the transfer portal.
Well, it's a little tough on Glenn because he did win an ACC championship
100%.
game. And then you can't blame him 63-3. They had like 15 opt-outs.
Yeah, exactly.
In that particular game. This has been a crazy time. We got the announcement yesterday about the exhibition games that will be for St. Jude, a doubleheader with the women taking on South Carolina, the defending champs, and North Carolina is going to come here. Memphis has never played North Carolina. That's pretty cool. It's for St. Jude. While that's going on, we get this breaking news about the Mountain West and the Pac-12. And it's interesting to me because, in essence, the Pac-12 and the Mountain West were going to kind of merge together. And the Mountain West wanted to run it because it's their teams, and they're bringing in two.
Yeah.
And played hardball. And so the Pac-12 said, well, really? No. We'll just take your 4 best teams.
How about that?
So the power play won by the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Memphis into that league. If you look at it, you would have, at this point, you would have Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, San Diego State, good name, Boise State, Colorado State.
Yeah.
To me, that makeup is better than what you've got in the American. Now,
Absolutely.
the proof is always in the details. What kind of money are we
that's
talking
the big
about?
one.
I know I've heard coaches say, well, if it's $3 or $4 million, it's not enough. I would think it would be enough.
Sure.
Of course you want more. And you want a seat at the table. Although if you don't get a seat at the table as a power conference, you'd still get one as a group of 5. I don't think you'd lose that. But Memphis does not have their rivals anymore. They're all gone.
No.
Unless you want to count UAB because of the
I guess so.
Bartow and Battle for the Bones.
Yeah.
Is Tulane really? I heard somebody say, if you brought Tulane and South Florida in, you had that deal, so you had some buddies go with you. Maybe that would be more, appetizing. If Memphis doesn't play South Florida, Tulane, other than Burns Steakhouse and New Orleans. I don't really care. I mean, those are not exactly what you call top run college franchises. So I see this. I know games would be on the West Coast and the times would be terrible, and I do think you have to have more money.
Absolutely.
And if you got Stanford and Cal that came with it too, that would really be. But I just think that makeup's actually better than what you got now in this league.
Sure, no, absolutely. And I think you bring up some good points. The biggest takeaway for me is all of the teams that they brought in from the Mountain West all have state at the end of their name. And Oregon State and Washington State also have state. So maybe if Memphis fans want them to get in, we go back to Memphis State. Everyone will have state at the end of the name. That would be fun. But no, I mean, I think the money's the biggest thing because it's very easy to think about football and basketball, and those make plenty of money. But at the end of the day, when you're joining a new conference and you're going to the West Coast for a lot of the games, you'd have to be thinking about soccer and baseball and track and field and some of these other sports. And that makes it hard. I mean, we've already seen some of these, USC and UCLA and Oregon, those teams that joined the Big Ten, they were complaining about how financially it could be tough for some of those smaller sports. I think money is definitely the biggest thing. You would definitely need a raise, if you will.
Well, you got to get a media rights deal.
Certainly. And not the CW.
Right.
That can't work.
No. You'd hope to get another ESPN deal.
And I think you could with those teams. I think ESPN or CBS. I mean, somebody would, I think, jump at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thanks as always. We'll be listening to you come 3 o'clock to 6 this afternoon. Our final portion of the week, as always, brought to you by the good folks at Grind City Brewing. They've got a new product coming out. I'm going to tell you more and more about this that has a citrus kind of thing to it. That's to add to my favorite, what the doctor ordered, the Poppy's Pills, the Pilsner. I love the lager. I love the Belga. That's their wheat ale, Blue Moonish kind of thing. And I love the venue. I love going down there because they've got picnic tables and umbrellas and a view of the city and of the bridges. It's peaceful, and the modern brewery is right there, and you love that, and you go inside and get your product. And then at night, sometimes there's concerts. It's the perfect venue for a concert. It has become an iconic place. Grind City Brewing. More than just the product. It's just a cool place. Grind City Brewing. That'll do it for us. We're on our way to Tallahassee, hopefully Monday. We're talking Tiger victory and what that may mean for the playoffs. Either way, we'll be talking about it Monday morning. Johnny Radio will talk about it next. He's right around the corner. Have a great weekend, everybody.